Open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Have an excellent show in store for us on this thankful Thursday. Let's start off with Honorable Education Minister focusing on the, Cayman Scholars. 1 p.m. Miss Michelle Power and crew will join us as we talk about the Alex Panton Foundation. Then 1:30, Mirabella DeCuna will come on and we'll have a focus on, heart health, stress, resilience, and the like. A good program in store. But in the meantime, as we assemble our entourage, we invite you to share with us, if you so choose, for a few minutes of maybe just back and forth, engage, exchange, who knows, maybe entertain and inform, maybe inspire, encourage, nurture. 949-837, 949-6990. Toll free with the compliments of Flow, 1-800-534-8255. Or you can WhatsApp 925-3261 and be a part of the discussion. It's a Thursday. We celebrated on Tuesday. Hopefully, the all-encompassing love as we showed the appreciation without expectation of how we felt for others. Perhaps over the decades, Valentine's Day has maybe morphed into something because, as some have alleged, the marketing and the willingness to expand the profit that could come from everything that is seemingly done these days with the idea that we're going to make more money of our endeavors. But maybe the flip side of that could be that we start to show love to all and sundry, not necessarily alike nor equally, but we remind each other of where we are, who we are, and why we feel the way we do. As an example, not long ago, perhaps on Valentine's Day, we were of the view that it was something that you show to that special someone in your life, to where it's now, parents say to children, and my words, use it as the all-encompassing agape love, that love that should transcend everything. And perhaps friends remind each other, perhaps through an exchange of, my favorite thing, chocolate, or through an exchange of a deliberate consciousness of time and each other's presence. Fully present, whether for the day, for just an hour, to sit uninterrupted and be mindful, consciously deliberate about their desire to spend time with each other and to respect and appreciate. Perhaps something we should do every day, but consciously understanding that we don't maybe justify it in our minds because of the demands on our schedule, the commitments that we want to take, and sometimes overextending ourselves. Maybe that's not a bad thing in itself, because if, in the words of Third World, the world needs a little more love today. Hey, if we have a lot more of that, maybe we'll have a better place. That quality of life, that safety, security would come because there's a love that we share for each other. And maybe that love starts with us loving and actually liking the person that's reflected in the mirror when we look. But oftentimes we confuse that for something else. It's a sense of being arrogant and conceited. We believe that it's only that sort of demonstration instead of a genuine love and appreciation for life, for the ability that we may have, however constrained and restrained that we may think it is, limited, hindered, hampered, otherwise compromise. We can do something. We all have time, talent, and treasure to different measures, but we have it. Your commitment may only be able to provide 1 hour of your time over the month, over the year. But maybe it's more. We give in love, we receive. So when we come back from this break, the Honorable Education Minister will join us, and we get a chance to talk about the Government High School's Scholar Award Program. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
They say variety is the spice of life. And that's why at Subway, we're introducing the new Boneless Hot Sub.
Say what?
The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
The Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure is pleased to host the first town market on Cardinal Avenue, Friday, February 17th, 3 to 8 p.m. The event will highlight more than 35 stalls of our island's fresh food and artisan producers in the heart of Georgetown, alongside music and entertainment. The town market, this Friday, February 17th, 3 to 8 p.m. on Cardinal Avenue. Come out for this pre-agricultural show event. Grand Cayman's biggest one-day family fun day is back! The 54th Annual Agricultural Show at the Stacey Watler Agricultural Pavilion in Lower Valley. Ash Wednesday, February 22nd. Raffle tickets are on sale now, and for only $25, you can win $20,000 and so many other prizes. Raffle tickets include general admission to the show. For more information, visit them on Facebook or CaymanAgriculture.com.
But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, and it's an honor once again to welcome the Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Juliana O'Connor. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being a part of today's discussion. Welcome.
Welcome. Can I do my usual thing?
Of course,
all
ma'am.
my prayers I pray.
Yes, ma'am.
They haven't stopped me yet.
And you should never stop praying.
Let's pray. Father God, we just thank you for this awesome moment and opportunity. We thank you for Dwayne and Radio Cayman and for the important significance it plays, not only in communication, Lord, but actually it's vital, especially during emergency times for our sister islands, the constituency which I represent. Lord, we thank you for the occasion that we're gathered here together. Bless these young people for their outstanding achievement, the parents, the teachers, the ministry, the department, and all who is involved. Most important for your divine knowledge that you so liberally imparted upon them. Guide our deliberations now. Bless our country. So many people are hurting today, but Lord, we know that it's a balm in Gideon. You're still in the healing business, as it were. So just let your Holy Spirit flow throughout these airways and touch some soul today, that they would not only know that it came through the airways from Radio Cayman, but Lord, they will remember that you have founded us, this country, upon the rock, and there we shall stay. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Say, by their fruits ye shall know them. I think it's important that we, as my mom said, never forget who you're for. And sometimes we misconstrue that. But Ms. Julie, from that perspective, education is, as we've been told over and often, not just equalizing, empowering, liberating, but is that thing that, she points to her head and I see her today. Once you have it here, nobody can take it from you. It's more than paper. It's more than experience and expertise that you acquire. It's to be able to instruct and through example, encourage. The Cayman Scholar, and with respect, I would, through you, Mom, invite Miss Lynette and two of our scholars to share, but through you, Mom.
Absolutely. Thank you for your graciousness and having us here today to talk about this very important topic. As you know, I'm an avid and a firm and formidable believer in nation building, nation being the country that we both dearly love so much. And as I was thinking about the incremental development of how we could remove hurdles from our young people and even our adults who want to learn, one of the steps in that ladder was giving them access and allowing affordability, creating a level playing ground, creating parity and equality from a gender perspective as well. And that's why you see a boy and a girl here today. And there'll probably be a question, as I emphasized last night, why not to the two highest students? Well, there's a good reason for that, because together with nation building, I also seek to do an element of social engineering using the best conduit that I know, that's education, save and except for those of us who believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. And so we decided that we would give it to the girl and boy, the highest within their gender category. And there's a lot of reasons sociologically. I can explain some of them if time permits. But education, Dwayne, as you know, is so important, especially where Cayman is being developed in leaps and bounds. And so many times, we hear the complaint that, Caymanians are being forgotten. And that was another thing in this day and age where I emphasized that this is going to be for Caymanians. And I, if you would permit me to so state, the late Manley said that I have a great empathy and a sympathy for every human being because they're God's creatures, as it were. But my responsibility as elected person are for Caymanians. I make no excuse whatsoever that in my education system and the public school, when it's public funds, we must invest in Caymanians first, because when the Ivans come and the Plumas come and the Ebolas or any other disease come, we stay on this little rock. And even if you have to go for medical reasons, a true-born, blue-blooded Caymanian will come back to his roots. And so that's what I'm investing in. The dividends are going to be infinitum. Even when I've gone from this stage, these young people, these historic young people, it's never done before, and I never envisioned, even though I had the desire and the passion, that I would get $100,000 up to for them so that they could go to the Ivy League colleges. It would not just be for the privileged few or the 1% that was born in wealth and lived in awe with a silver spoon in their mouth, but regular Caymanians who strive to penetrate those glass ceilings would have an opportunity if they put in the sweat equity.
Mm-hmm. And this is where I think as we continue to invest in our people, first through the educational pursuits and then continue through the opportunity to gain experience. It takes time. Nobody now knows everything, and probably know more now than they did last year or 10 years ago. As the acting chief education officer, Ms. Lynette, sorry. it is good to see increasingly what education can do, should do, for all of us. And it's not just about learning in the classroom. As we welcome the director of the Department of Education Services, Mr. Mark Ray. Ms. Julie, respectfully, sometimes me and Mr. Mark, we have conversations about optimism and Optimist Club, and we forget that, as men, sometimes we become so passionate about what we want to see within our society from our young people that may itself drive. But Ms. Lynette, I was saying that to emphasize, you're in the classroom, you're in the netball court, you're in the ministry relative to, policy and the like. But it's the example, as Ms. Julie was praying, and I share, by their fruits ye shall know them. We have to be that example as adults, and not just fervent and contrite, but continually pressing on. How do we say to our young people, in particular their parents, that this is a partnership? It's not lip service, it's action. I won't share what Miss Julia said, before we came in, but I think it resonates with us.
And I think, Sterling, that it starts with the ministry's commitment. We have these two brilliant young persons here in the studio with us, and it shows, first of all, the ministry's commitment to ensuring that our most promising Caymanian young people, in addition to all the other students out there, reach their full potential. And by their example, they will encourage others. Okay, that's one of my classmates. I was in class with her. I saw her in the year above me. I will aspire for the same thing. So it sort of cascades that effort and possibility of what is possible. Abigail is going to Harvard. Oh, I could go to Harvard too. Yeah. So that is the most powerful motivator. Because they can actually say they know someone else. You're not reading in a book. You're not being told that it is possible. So that's about inspiring our youth to excellence. I think that example is really, really powerful.
Is it then, if I may ask, and with great reference, certainly won't have our students join us, but I wonder sometimes if the schools would be termed Ivy League, the Harvards in the U.S., the others across the globe, whether it's in Germany or other places, were they, in our minds, unattainable because we didn't have the money, we didn't think we were good enough, we didn't have the academics, we just weren't encouraged and nurtured? And in that end, is it that our students here have the aptitude, the demonstrated academic excellence to apply? Is it through the training and the navigating? And
I think Minister might have alluded to it when she was speaking. For a lot of our students, going to Harvard, $100,000 is a lot of money for parents who, however hard they work, they may not be able to realize that they may have a number of children or even one. So this scholarship really levels the playing field, if you can put it that way. So that funding is not an option. So it really is about the young people doing what they do best, excelling.
So the process then would be, hey, you applied, like many of us, we did look at some schools because we just couldn't afford it, even with a scholarship. So that was out of even though academically we could, is it now get accepted, the money will be there, or you have the money, let's see if it get accepted?
So there is a process. So you heard before that is for Caymanian students in our government high schools. So that's one of the criteria. Having attended a government high school for at least 4 years, sat their exams, and they apply. So apart from that, the only other thing they have to do is to really excel. Once the exams are finished, there's a panel of persons in the ministry and in the ES who takes a look at those exam results, and that's very objective. It's either the results are there or they're not there, and they will be selected. We are requiring this Cayman scholar to have once at the Caribbean Examination Council's examination, the CSEC examination, or A star, or a distinction. So it really is the top grades, not accepting B's, not accepting C's, not accepting 2s or 3s. You have to have at least 10 subjects with those grades. And the acceptance at one of these Ivy League schools, universities, comes next because they may not have originally applied, but they have 3 years to take up the scholarship. So that gives them an opportunity. If they had applied elsewhere and gotten an acceptance, they could then apply to one of these schools. But I'd like to make a point. We're speaking about Harvard and Oxford and Cambridge, but Mr. White here wants to do something in the STEM with computers. He'll speak for himself, and it doesn't mean that he would automatically lead to the Harvard. It might be some institute of technology that is really top on the level of universities covering that. So a top university might not be the named ones, but they'd be top in their fields and producing.
We can think of a few like that,
Yeah.
And with that, Honourable Minister, I mean, you reference Caymanian students in the government high schools. For some of us, we may have opted for a private school, maybe for the Christian education, for instance, but it's still a Caymanian child born to two Caymanian parents whose parents were Caymanian. In that essence, two things. One, why initially limited it to the government high schools, which I went through and I commend. And if in the future would it extend to any Caymanian child in school in Cayman, whether it's homeschool, Triple C, just as an example, or any other of the private schools?
Yeah. As I said in the initial comment,
yes, ma'am.
It's a nation building process and it's incremental. At this stage, we felt that it was necessary, and based on the resources that we had, were the components that came to the conclusion that I came. So, and basically, I think for too long, persons have looked down on the public schools and they felt like they were the drags of the community, and most of us are products of the public school because we didn't have the luxury of the private schools. And so my first aim and responsibility was to bring up the public schools to the level where we had not just Cayman acceptance but worldwide acceptance, and to prove to the nation and to the naysayers that the fact that you're a Caymanian had nothing to do with your intellectual capacity. And one way we believe of proving that is to show extrinsic evidence that here's a young girl, here's a young boy who's gone to the public school, and they can compare to any of the private schools with the grades that they got and can go overseas as great ambassadors. We believe that we're very close to achieving that, because one of the other incremental steps was that OES, which is the Office of Education Standards, was removed from the Education Ministry to give that limbs objectivity, so that they're now an independent body and they assess their schools. And you would have seen that so far we've got two good schools, and I'm not going to rest in either as my senior team until we reach excellent. But the good news is that unfortunately for the private school, there are three and a half who now obtain weak. I say half because one is almost there to get back to satisfactory. But currently there are absolutely no public schools that have attained that. So we've begun to reach the goals that we've actually set, so that when a Caymanian graduates, they'll no longer be able to say, oh, that's just a school leaving certificate, so we're not going to pay them no mind. They're going to be a formidable force in the education spectrum. Once that is achieved and funds are available, and I believe the government, both past and this one, are doing a great job considering the dire economic world situation where they still can report surpluses, we will then look at the Caymanian in the private school. But for the most part, those Caymanians who go to the private school are of a situation where they can afford the high prices of the private school and have a better chance of excelling towards scholarships in the private sector as well.
Yes, ma'am. And before we ask Mr. Reid to discussion, if I might invite Diamond and Ms. Abigail, first just continue on. Diamond, to your perspective, Ms. Lynette was sharing, where your studies will take you. Again, congratulations to both of you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your chosen path of study, where you plan to go, when you plan to go, what you plan to do. Can we talk to you a bit?
So, I plan to do a mathematics and computer science degree, and I'm going to try to become a software engineer and maybe work with data science and look at modeling problems. So different physics problems, like different.
And do you know where you're thinking about going?
I'm thinking about going to Imperial College London. That's my top choice right now, because they're really good for mathematics and computer science courses. I mean, well, and
we had a conversation prior to the pick with his dad here, so I got permission to ask him.
So I'd like to push Diamond a little. I think he's a little
as we
shy
are
on his intents. But last night you shared with us, Diamond, about some of the issues that we currently face here that you would be coming back to the islands to try to solve. So maybe you could share that with our listening public as well.
Right, so one of the problems that we're facing is the traffic problem. I'm sure everyone is familiar. And I think I could use my degree to apply different mathematical tools to help model that and use a computer so we can predict different ways we can alter the current roads or set new roads into place so we can change the way traffic flows and help people in that way.
When are you hoping to go off?
Well, I'm hoping to go off later this year in October, around that time.
Yeah, when the UK schools start. And with that, Ms. Abigail, again, congratulations, and
thank you
to Honourable Minister and the Acting Chief Officer and the Director. We had a wonderful conversation. They were here early. Diana's dad was here, and Yeah, but we had a good conversation, right? Yeah. Ms. Abigail, again, congrats. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you going to study, as Ms. Lynette was sharing? When and why?
Okay, my name is Abigail Rose, like we mentioned before, and I went to Red Bay and then John Gray, and now I'm at Cayman Prep and High School doing my A-levels. I want to pursue a career in medicine. I've applied all over, so in the UK and in the US too. In the UK, I hope to go to the University College of London. In America, I want to go to Harvard or New York University.
Mm-hmm.
I want to become a doctor because I think the Cayman has given so much to me. Just the opportunities that have been made available to me, such as this and other things I was able to do at John Gray that otherwise I wouldn't have had the funds to do, or like been given the opportunity to experience some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to give back to my society as a doctor, and I would like to undertake new and more efficient methods of healthcare since it's always improving.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to look more into preventative measures of care by spreading awareness for things like that.
Now, Mr. Mark, I think we all subscribe to whom much is given, much is required.
Mm-hmm.
And many of us always appreciate that we try hard and harder every day to do just that. Again, thanks for coming and being a part of it. Department of Education Services, you have a huge remit because although, as I understand it, you're not only looking at the government schools, which I've always believed should be the very best in the country because it has the government sort of funding and input behind us, but your team has to look at education across the entire spectrum. How do we say to specifically, I keep saying to parents, we're the ones, we wake our children up or we fail for them to get up to get ready, breakfast or not, clothes pressed or not, no matter how much independence, we are the parents that help them through example, deliberate consciousness. What do we do to raise the bar of education, the standard of excellence, but more importantly, the expectation? What do we do?
Yeah.
Pull your mic now, my friend,
Sure.
and draw close.
All right. Thank you, Dwayne, for having me. And once again, congratulations to our scholars. I think one of the things that is really important, then we recognize the opportunities that are presented to the young people now. And certainly my generations before me, we didn't have these opportunities. And then we can demonstrate the benefit to the student. I think parents should be in a position to recognize that they want to encourage their children to grab these opportunities with both hands. We need to have parents as partners. Right?
Yeah.
They're not just people that we give information to and send them along their way. So engage them in the process, certainly help them to understand the benefit, and take on board, where applicable, maybe suggestions that they may have. Education is one of those things that everyone has an opinion on, because we all went to school, we all have a belief on how it should operate and how it should run. But our key stakeholders when we're looking at the running of our government schools obviously would be our students, our teachers, and our parents. And these are the people who we are serving as our clients. So bringing them on board, having a voice for them, and helping them to understand that from early, we would implore parents to help their students to understand from early that there are consequences to actions. So the consequence of your good actions in terms of your studies and your success is this, right? And similarly, on the flip side, the consequence of not taking the opportunities or looking at the resources that are provided for students. We have laptops that our minister in a very visionary way identified needed to be provided for our students. We have free school meals provision. We have bus services. We have security to keep them safe. And underpinning their achievement really is good teaching and learning. So the professional development for our teachers. All of these are opportunities that we put in place. And if they don't grab those opportunities, the consequence will be a lack of ability for them to reach their full potential. So, and it benefits not just the individual student, their family, but the country. So these young people are talking about going away and coming back with models to deal with traffic, Dwayne. So I thought you were going to ask him when is he going to develop the model. You asked when he's going to start the studies. I thought you were going to ask when he's developing the model, because tomorrow the people coming from the East want it.
Yeah, well, as we were talking earlier, I said to them, as students, when their parents or adults are present, I respectfully try to speak to the adult, to the student through the adult, because I think that's the way it should be. But yeah, that was part of our discussion earlier. Now, when you come back from the break, Honourable Minister, could we ask more about it? And I do recognize, Mom, that your schedule, and then we'll have a discussion until just 1. But please rejoin us after the break.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Dwayne Porter will be taking appointments from February 13th to 18th at his Crew Road Clinic. Clinic appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.porterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
The Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure presents The Garth Guide. A Garth Brooks and Shania Twain tribute show live from Las Vegas on Friday, February 17th at the Agriculture Fairgrounds for a free show. Gates open at 6 p.m. with DJ Flex, Impulse Band, J.R. Douglas and Dexter Bodden. Food and drink available on site and a chance to win Cayman Airways tickets. Enjoy a night of Garth Brooks and Shania Twain hits at the Agriculture Fairgrounds. Friday, February 17th. Gates open at 6 p.m. and entry is free. Brought to you by the Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure, Cayman Airways, Cayman Distributors, Coca-Cola, the Ministry of Border Control and Labor, and Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And it's really an honor to be able to focus on education and have the great privilege and Honorable Juliana O'Connor-Conlon together with the Acting Chief Officer, Mr. Monteith, the Director of Education Services, Mr. Ray, and the first two of our Cayman scholars, Mr. White and Mr. Rose. Congratulations again. Honorable Minister, being very respectful of the students and you and the time of everyone, could I ask, because as Ms. Lynette has alluded to, you've been a strong, advocate, a very strong public proponent for not just funding education, pay for teachers and the like, and as you shared, who would have dreamed of getting 100,000, up to 100,000, for this thing. That budget that we spend is an opportunity cost. Money from here to go from there. We're seeing the governments, through the press release, just drawing another 150 million as part of that initial borrowing. What can we do as a country, both from the government's coffers, through taxes, through reassigning expenditure, to the personal home, an individual, to the corporate sector, to amalgamate our funding for education so that perhaps the spend, no offense to the Honourable Minister of Tourism, but say on advertising or to something else, so that we put more money into, say, education and healthcare to bring, the computer modeling for the traffic, to be in the alternative medicine approaches to maybe the new approach to education and teaching and learning. Is that something that we need to do? Understanding we cut our sale according to our cloth. The money is only so much. Let's get the most value for it.
Well, Dwayne, I think I've been blessed because I can say, and my senior team is here, but whenever we come up with a policy and stuff, I'll use local language, like, you get a policy and I'll go fight for it. Mm-hmm. But I don't go on my own, I've got elected on the promises of God, and he said, fear not, I'll be with you always. I always pray and I fast about things whenever the ideas come to me. And I can say, for the different governments that I've been in, whatever I've asked for education, and increasingly my ask is more and more, I've always gotten. Now, it doesn't mean that I get it first time or that it's easy, but the Lord somehow creates the atmosphere and convinces them that I get it. And sometimes, like with the salary, I go down a limb. I was trying to get it through all legal means, and I felt it was taking too long. So when I had a teacher's retreat, I said it publicly. that I within this term, I expect this to happen to my teachers. Now, I know that I was probably very near to Section 55 when I said it, but being a lawyer, I made sure I put enough provisos in there that a little bit of ego was inserted, and we got it. Yeah. And so sometimes it does take some psychological warfare, and the art of war becomes necessary. But I believe that every politician, opposition and government, understands and appreciate that education has to be a paramount consideration, that it has to be student-centered. And yes, every minister and every MP may want to fight for their piece of the pie, but at the end of the day, it comes down to family, and every reasonable family wants the very best for the child, and that includes education. Yes, so when you bring in some of those, then that's why you hear me refer to the term social engineering. Is not because it's communistic versus democracy, but you have to set a goal and you have to engineer, because if you don't know what you want when you get there, you won't know when you got there. Yeah.
I just wrote that down maybe seconds before you said it again.
Oh, okay. I do it. God helps.
Yeah, right. And then I was asking, set it up. We have friends and family who are living in other countries, and as, if I may say, just from that whole perspective, you go to a space, whether you're the new employee, you want to prove yourself, you go to a country, you want to find out how to navigate, and you excel. Is it then, as a good friend whose ancestral links probably go back almost as far as mine, I think he was probably the guy who came up after my father said, yeah, that was Columbus, he was lost, we told him. That's my joke. Is it then that we who've been here forever don't have the same value and appreciation for those who've come of recent, the last century, the last decade, whichever? Is it that we need to get within our people a greater sense of consciousness to value Cayman, the government schools, the beach, the idea that I can call up Mr. Mark and say, hey, what are you doing? You want to play a little game of checkers? That connection that we have, are we losing that? Are we not valuing Cayman as Caymanians?
I think it's probably brilliant that you put the ing on to lose. I don't think that we've lost it.
I don't think so.
But I think that if we don't make a conscientious effort to preserve it and to appreciate it, then we will lose it. Okay. One thing that irks me is when I hear a Caymanian, because they go to prep school or Catholic school or even some of our government schools, and they come back home, and because it's a non-Caymanian teacher, they start talking the language of that teacher. Well, that's the parent responsibility to make sure that the children speak proper English, but there's nothing wrong with come here. But we have there's a place and an opportunity for that. We have to keep our heritage, and I am a born Cayman Bracker, and I'm saying Caymanian.
What does the Denison say? Every Bracker is a Caymanian, but never Cayman's a Bracker.
Well, that's a pretty good way to do it, right? But at the end of the day, we were put here for a reason, for such a time as this, and for a purpose. And it's our responsibility to bloom in the garden that God placed us in. Yes, and the Caymanian flower is no less eloquent or pretty than the UK flower, the Canadian flower, New Zealand flower. We just need to plant it, fertilize it, and water it, and cream it, and own it. Right. Well, now you're going to get me preaching.
No. I'm really to open up my Bible, but and with that, maybe I can turn to our students, because I think the focus should not only just be as we want it to be as parents, in particular, the academics, but to what the Honourable Minister has said. Perhaps to you first, Ms. Rose, the idea that it's about excelling academically, being the best educator, being the best physician, mathematician. But is it then that the space and place in which we are, so, we're here in Cayman, we're going to get education overseas, we're going to come back. How important it is, as the Honourable Minister said, to make sure that commitment to our country is continual. And in 50 years from now, we're still plugging away as best as we can to build the values that are us, appreciate the qualities and opportunities. To you, when you return from university, but as you start now, how important is it to be Caymanian, to subscribe to that Cayman ethos, to ensure that Cayman is that jewel, not just in the Caribbean, but in the planet?
I think it's very important for us to maintain our Caymanian heritage. If we don't know who we are, we can't know where we're going. And what we do here in Cayman, our customs, our traditions, the way we talk, is a part of who we are. So if we lose that just because we go overseas, then it's kind of like we're losing a part of who we are. And if everybody does that, then it will be forgotten, the Caymanian ways. Yeah. So I think that's very important. And it's important that we continue to encourage people, our young Caymanians to come back, I think, if that's what you're asking, so we can avoid brain drain, because there are many brilliant people here, and with this government and this community, there are many opportunities, since everybody almost knows everyone, for us to excel. And as I mentioned, with the opportunities, everybody can succeed, so we can come here and we can develop our country.
Dan, what about you? I mean, because we don't move through life without the influence of our parents. If our parent is a doctor, or an architect or a plumber, if our parent was born in Tijuana or wherever, that influence is on us. To you?
Well, I agree with everything that has been said already. And if we don't know where we're going, if we don't know where we come from, we can't really know where we're going. And so it's very important to keep that Caymanian ways with us wherever we go, and to come back and serve where much has been invested into you from the government, with all the programs and all of the extracurriculars, all of the free lunches and so on, that the government, all the opportunities that you have been given at the government schools. It's important to come back and reinvest that into Cayman.
Yeah. Honourable Minister, I would, as your schedule allows, I love you one Thursday in particular, as we have that Thoughtful Thursday, to come in the studio. We talk about not just the idea there is no free lunch in a sense, but there's more to preserving and promoting the cultural ethos. I get lambasted many times because there's no mistake where I'm from. I deliberately sometimes make sure that I say it in a certain way that if it falls in your ears and you don't understand, well, ask a friend. But how do we ensure that we elevate our people through education and academics, but at the same time being mindful that if we don't protect and promote and then publish who we are, from the language to the culture to the food to everything, the little nuances, I can look at you and you know exactly what I'm saying. Another person may be offended by it. How do we make sure, and that's no different than any culture anywhere?
Well, I obviously believe, Dwayne, that it starts at home. It's a tripartite relationship. Yes, you have the government, the school, and the parents, but we only have them about 1/3 of the day. The parents have them for the other 2/3 a day. Most parents. I mean, some single parents may have worked their shift, but they got some instances, like in outer districts, of grandparents, and we still have that element of Cayman community that would look after their family, perhaps not as much as they should, but some still do. And I think that as they elect leaders who stand firm and tall to be proud that they're Caymanian. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that being a Cayman means that you're better than anyone else, because God made all of us equal. No. But what I am saying is that we are no less than anyone else. And our first priority is to ensure that we take charge. It starts at home, that we take care and we empower and we groom them. That means that we have to rely heavily on teachers from the outside, bankers from the outside. But one thing of being Caymanian, this thing called Caymankind didn't just start through a PR and tourism. Caymankind happened from way back. You said perhaps the 10th of May, 1502, when Columbus supposedly came and discovered us as turtle riddled.
I was saying before that, but anyway.
Whatever. You know about the cars and stuff, but I'm being correct. We have to teach our children. You know, when we were growing up, yes, we didn't have TV and all that, times have changed. But we came up in an era where you sat underneath the grape tree and you were permitted. You know, it wasn't a right to hear the stories from your grandparents and your foreparents tell about their life when they went to sea and everything. Our experience is different. It's when we went into the banks and when we went into the institutions and when we went into the schools. And our experience has been one where we've seen Cayman develop so fast. It was almost like when Henry Bush told the American that this building wasn't here this morning, but it's now here today. And I find where we fought, if I can be critical of us as Caymanians, is that rather than take a proactive, positive approach and try to mentor and try to train and try to pass on from one generation to the next, we don't avail ourselves of the opportunity, but we will get into that little after church group or after meeting group and criticize everybody from Jehovah, Jireh, our provider. that will not get us anywhere. There's a time for critical thinking, but let it be in a way that the conclusion is a positive result, where we can say, well, you know, I spent 20 years here, 40 years, whatever the Lord gave me, and I took this young child and taught them how to make a cassava cake, or taught them how to do basket, or taught them how to do navigation, or how to fish, or taught them the importance of the environment and sustainability. Every one of us, no matter what the degrees of education is, can still learn something, and we still have something that we can teach. And to conclude, if I can conclude at this time, wherever you go, remember you are a Caymanian, and that is something that you must represent. Bring no disgrace to the grace that God have given you, and do not feel ashamed that, you know, you're going in so everybody else is more smarter than you. That is why we spent money, we went to pains to get the British curriculum, because we're British Overseas Territory. We've now completed the primary section. We're about to go off again next month to do the secondary section of British curriculum, so that when they come and say, well, oh, your education not as good as mine, we can say, look, it's the same curriculum you came from, we got the same aid that you got, so what's the problem?
Sorry, I really wanted to jump in on this topic because I feel very, very passionate about it, and I don't know what time we have, but I'll try to be as quick as possible. I want to say two things to the young people. Never let anyone make you feel ashamed of your accent or your dialect, all right? Know how to speak standard English so that you can represent yourself in any setting, but be fiercely proud of the things that are uniquely Caymanian about you. I believe that in our education system, we have to make sure that our young people are producers of content and knowledge, and not just passive acceptors of information. So when you go out there, keep your Cayman context in the back of your mind, taking everything that you can about what the world has to offer, and apply those things to your Cayman context, so that when you come back, you can preserve those things that are uniquely Caymanian, find the right solutions, find the right ways to do things, use the technology that is present in today's world to improve on the heritage. You have to know where you're coming from to know where you're going. So those things that are uniquely Caymanian, hold fast to them. See if there are ways that you can introduce the new technologies that are available to you to bake something that may be different, better, but encompassing those Caymanian elements. Right? So I implore you to always think that you are a creator of knowledge and information, and don't let anyone just give you stuff and you accept it.
Critical thinker. I think the school we went to, high school, Ms. Nanette, hold fast that which is good was our motto. Thank you very much, Ms. Nanette, for joining on with Minister Mr. Ray. Again, Diamond and Ms. Abigail, congratulations. Trust as a community will continue to nurture young people, instill in them the values, and let us all be proud of not only the country in which we are living, but the heritage that is Caymanian. So, Ms. Julie, thank you much, ma'am.
You're most welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, when we come back and have a discussion about the Alex Panton Foundation, Miss Michelle Powell will join us. She's bringing along Dr. Catherine Smith. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Cayman Islands Monetary Authority is seeking public input on the redesign of the Cayman Islands banknotes. Via an online survey, residents and citizens will have the option to select from specific themes and submit additional ideas of their own. Responses are due by March 2nd, 2023. In international news, Spain's parliament has given final approval to a law allowing people over 16 to change their legally recognized gender without medical evaluation. It passed with 191 votes in favor and 60 against, the final step in an extensive debate. The process to change gender on documents could in theory now take around 3 to 4 months. Another law passed on Thursday includes paid menstrual leave for women suffering severe period pain. Popular hair care company Olaplex is being sued by 28 women who claim its products caused hair loss, blisters, and other conditions. The Olaplex range includes shampoos, conditioners, and treatments that claim to safely repair broken bonds and rejuvenate hair. But the lawsuit says Olaplex uses harmful chemicals that left the women's hair and scalps in a worse condition. Olaplex has released test results that it says show the products are safe. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information, Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
The headline news are brought to you by Health Services Authority.
HSA's cardiology clinic is now located at Smith Road Medical Center. Our cardiology team provides expert care and treatment for heart conditions such as coronary artery disease, heart failure, arrhythmias, hypertension, congenital heart diseases, among others. The new location offers state-of-the-art cardiac diagnostic testing, including echocardiograms, ECGs, and stress tests. To contact, call 949-8600. At HSA, your heart matters to us.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Born September 25, 1947, at Watering Place, Cayman Brac, Royce Adolphus Dilbert was the firstborn son to Helen and Grace Dilbert, née Tibbetts. As a young boy, he attended Weston Primary School, then later Gainstead High School in Jamaica, when the family moved there to be closer to his dad, who was chief engineer on Cockernel ships. During school breaks, he would work at Hannah's haberdashery store as a wrapper. Wanting to be a seaman and engineer like his dad, shortly after his 16th birthday, Royce would join his dad on the Cockernel ship, the Kirk Pride, as a messman, later working on other Cockernel ships for Bawden Shipping on the Merkel, National Boat Carriers, West Indian Towing Company, and West Indian Lines. Mr. Dilbert would enroll at National Technical School, and at age 25, he achieved his chief engineer license. By this time, Royce had worked his way up the ranks from BR messman to wiper oiler, fireman, second and first engineer to chief engineer.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your Sister Islands.
Discover all that our Sister Islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And in the studio, Ms. Michelle Powell, as an opportunity to speak to something that is very near and dear to all of us, an idea that we promote health and wellness, and especially mental health and wellness. And joining her, one of the adjunct professors over at UCCI, Dr. Catherine Whitaker. Respectfully, Ms. Michelle, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm doing well, thank you.
We see increasingly the great work at the Alex Panda Foundation, and the more and more we talk about wellness, and that health should be spiritual, physical, financial, emotional. It's all encompassing, and to be able to have an avenue, especially for our youth or young people, to appreciate that whatever they're feeling, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, they're not the first, they're not the only one. Having that support that's loving and nurturing, that is committed, that is truly, competent, gives us a better chance of enjoying life, but being able to contribute more to life.
Of
so
course.
Welcome, and share with us, what we're talking about, where we're going, and why we're here. And thanks for the notes, by the way.
Thank you. There's a lot of people who, well, I'm sure everyone should know the Alex Panton Foundation by now.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who don't know, the Alex Panton Foundation is a non-profit organization. The foundation was established in memory of Alex Panton, who succumbed to the effects of severe depression at the age of 16. And the foundation really aims to provide hope and resources to friends, family, teachers, classmates, and careers to help save lives of children and young adults struggling with mental illness. You know, that's a huge thing within our community right now. And obviously, you know, our primary objective is raising awareness of mental illnesses affecting children and young adults in the Cayman Islands, with a particular focus on anxiety and depression. So with that being said, we're going to be hosting our 6th annual Youth Mental Health Symposium at the Ritz-Carlton this Saturday, the 18th of February, starting at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Dr. Catherine, with that perspective, and I say this both as someone who's trying to learn and understand, as someone that, according to my birth certificate, should be an adult, although I still want to be youthful at heart. We see things affecting young people now that we say, oh, back in my day, that wasn't the case. It may or may not have been. But for some reason, I think anxiety, depression, the sense of loneliness that affect us as adults, for whatever reason, we don't believe that it could be also impacting our children. Why is that?
And there's so many things that come into play. I think the pandemic had a big influence on. Yeah. And one of the major issues, I think, that we have to confront is isolation and connection. Yeah. And so with social media and all of that and all the games, we didn't have that when we were little, right? We had to go outside and play, and we had to, you know, fend for ourselves and get fresh air and make up games and use our imaginations. Yeah. And a lot of times, and especially through the pandemic, where all of the children had to stay home, and they basically isolated from their friends and didn't have that actual connection, that just exacerbated the issues.
I think that whole thing that we're experiencing, since 2020 probably has highlighted what has been transpiring for years in our homes. I got in trouble, I know, by many who were offended when I said it should be physical distancing, not social distancing. And people say, what are you saying that for? You're not singing from the government hymnal. Well, I don't really care, because I've seen the impact on my adult friends, on our children, on our aging parents. I can say, and I want you as the trained mental health psychologists guiding us, we're social beings. Right. We can be alone but not lonely. We can be lonely but not alone. And yet, if I can't reach out to my friend Michelle and say, hey, you know what, today was really a tough day at work, Miss Norma asked me to do something and I just didn't know how to do it, and I got overwhelmed. If we don't have that level of interaction, engagement, support through our mental health professionals, how are we coping and functioning? What about our children?
Exactly. Well, what about not even the mental health professionals, the parents, the neighbors? Sometimes we don't even know who lives around us. We don't know who's at the grocery store. We don't communicate like we used to do. We don't know our community. We really need to have those conversations, and if someone is having a hard day, to really ask them those questions, because I think that's what it's all about, is raising awareness of helping people cope through what's the hard times.
So and saying that as an example, let me then ask then, for some of us, and I really want to credit, if she would allow me, Dr. Alexandra Borden, we facilitated the monthly Mental Health Matters show. Yeah. We seem to think that it's a weakness to ask for help. As adults, as parents, I wonder if we start to think if that is the unconscious example we're setting. I wonder what our children or students are feeling. Right. Something's bugging them. It could be they're sitting down at their math problem and they can't get it right, and we tell them something that is affecting them. Instead of saying, well, I don't quite sure how this is. I got the answer, but I'm not really sure. We without realizing it, telling our children, you don't need to ask for help. That's not what you do. Real men don't cry. You ask for help, you're weak. As opposed to, my brothers will tell you, I'll pick up the phone and say, guy, I don't know how to do this. Well, turn off the tap. That's the first thing. Get the water, start running. But you ask for help. And yet if you do, your spouse, your good friend, your society says, no, you don't. Is that what is happening? And if so, how do we address that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think we do need to know that mental illness or mental health issues in general are not something that should be something foreign. And a lot of people say, don't mistake my kindness for weakness either. And if you're kind to somebody, sometimes people think that's weak as well. Yep. But kindness and compassion is not weakness. That's actually, vulnerability is a strength because you're confident enough to be yourself. And I think people hide behind that, and they're not themselves because they're too afraid to be themselves. And when it comes down to it, we all have stuff we're going through. Everybody has stuff.
I'm glad you share that, because and maybe speaking to adults, we get to see that children are props the same. So, Ms. Michelle, the mother or the female, if she demonstrates something that may seem as kindness, we may say, oh, she's weak and vulnerable, and then be taken advantage of, so she's going to show the strength. If the man, does that, then likewise. But yet, why suffer in silence? Why pretend that you're there diligently working at solving this math problem, and really and truly you haven't even opened the page yet, but we're putting on that face to our detriment? How do we get our young people in? And I can commend you and Alex Panner Foundation for the symposium, because we had the dialogue. I've seen some of the things in the presentations over the years. Is it then with the greatest of respect to everyone? Are we talking more about things and talking around it, instead of taking the bull by the horns and being truthful with the man in the mirror, with the politician who is spouting off whatever, to even the parent, who is saying things, and instead of, really being very deliberately, consciously active in trying to address some of the things that we know are just absolutely stupid.
I mean,
it may be the doctor answer.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely correct. But this year's theme is Let's Talk About Trauma.
Yeah.
And it's addressing the elephant in the room.
Yes.
And, I am obviously not, licensed to talk about anything, to give any assistance or help.
Right.
But, I think it's very important that our young people come out to this symposium. There'll be a lot of panel discussions that Ms. Catherine will be on, and just persons talking about their personal experience, their personal trauma, generational trauma will be addressed. I think everyone will get something out of it.
Yeah.
It's the youth, we're aiming for the youth.
Right.
Parents, how to deal with these things. And it's really for everyone.
I want to sort of, before, 2 minute moments more, get people to understand how to be a part of the panel discussion, or to listen to and be present in the audience. But Dr. Catherine, from her perspective, let's talk about trauma. Is it that for some of us, trauma is that physical thing that may have happened without understanding the emotional connotations? The notion that we're now seeing PTSD, for instance, being something that's being considered, within your realm, and especially the last couple of years. I always remind myself that little learning is a dangerous thing. Is it that as we hear trauma and the desire, the need to talk about it, we are looking at it from a perspective of a physical act, or
no? Trauma can be there. The definition of trauma is how it affects you and what's happening. So it could be emotional. It could be loss of a loved one. It could be domestic violence, but it could be emotional violence. It could also be bullying, and bullying could be cyberbullying. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical. That sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me is not
don't
true.
subscribe to that.
It is not true.
Yeah.
Because people, that's where eating disorders come from. That's where a lot of the suicidal ideation comes from. That's where a lot of those thoughts of I'm not enough come from. It's by other people putting their stuff on others. And when we talk about trauma, we're not trying to traumatize people, right? And get them traumatized by the stories. What we're going to do it in a safe place. And we're going to talk about coping and talk about resilience and talk about how to have the conversations before it gets worse, or just to be really aware of that.
Yeah, I remember almost a decade is going to make me sound old. Doing what is now the darkness to light training. It was an intense training. It was over many times. It's a little bit different now. And in the room, you could share that everybody could relate to what it was. Much of it was a presentation through video and stories and the like. And it was informative and instructive. It was sobering, because you understood the reason why we were there.
Right.
There was no requirement to attend it. Those consciously attended because we thought we could benefit from it in our health. But I use it as an example to ask. We've come maybe 4 decades, in some instances 2 decades, but we're not anywhere closer to being meaningfully impactful in the lives of our young people. Ms. Michelle, with that, Saturday is a wonderful forum. It's an excellent opportunity. But how do we get the buy-in from us, the adult, to ensure that we're not just dropping off the children in our care, that maybe we are continue partnering with them so that this is real, it's ongoing, and it's affecting us.
Well, I mean, let's be honest.
No, later. Let's be politicians. What do you say now?
I'm sure every parent, every adult, every young person, everyone has an interest in someone. And, as a parent, as a mother of two, this will be my first symposium. And it's something that I want to do to understand better what could be affecting my child. How to better relate to my children and other young children around me. I serve on PTA boards, so I think it's very important to pretty much be aware of what's happening within our community. Mental health is such an important topic. It's such an important thing that I think it's played down a little bit, and the person's looked down to it as not important. It's something that's not relevant. It's something that you can get over it, but you really can't. It will manifest itself at some point. The event is free. It's open to the public. All we ask is you don't have to stay the full day if you can't, but an hour or two. I'm sure if you come for an hour, you want to stay the whole day. But yeah, registration is free, open and free on our website. AlexPantonFoundation.ky. I urge everyone to come out. There's always something for everyone there.
It's the Youth Mental Health Symposium. It is your 6th. It's open to the public, so we as parents can come either with our children or without.
Yeah.
But that youth sort of component, are you looking at the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old, the 11-teen? I mean, what sort of your core target for youth?
We're talking about 16-year-olds and up. It will be some heavy stuff being discussed at the symposium. Not entirely sure it would be relevant to the younger children, even though we do assist and work with the younger children. I just don't feel that the symposium.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate you emphasize that. And with that in mind, Dr. Catherine, I think sometimes as adults, especially as parents, we don't understand that our 10-year-old or 12-year-old or even our 16-year-old or sometimes, our adult child, I don't know how that word comes into play, maybe a misnomer otherwise, but they're affected by so much. This thing we call social media can be one of the worst things in the world sometimes when we look at it. We can't disconnect from it as adults. How do we then show them that what our children are exposed to, that we're available to them to try to understand, help them to navigate? Are we ignoring what may be obvious, or are we obviously blind to what is happening?
Well, I think that's a two-part dilemma. However, I was speaking to one of the organizers this morning, and Dr. Davis, he made a great point. He's one of the guests, the keynote speakers.
Over the HSE.
Yes, he's amazing. And he was talking about, and it just hit home to me, is how parents, as a parent, when you're having a hard day, you call a friend at night and you say, hey, let's go have a drink, or let's go, play pickleball, or let's go, something. Let's get together on the weekend. And your children have a hard day, and they still have to come home and do their homework. Then they have to go to bed, and then they have to get back up and go back to school. They don't get that out to where adults can really try to help relieve some of that pressure, and their expression isn't as easy to say, look, I need help, like I'm going through some stuff, because it's hard for them. So just to make parents aware to really give them that space.
And are we, again, I speak to the adults because I don't think we understand how our actions, we come home from work, we may prepare a meal, and then during the meal we pour some sort of beverage, whatever that is, right? It doesn't have to be an alcoholic beverage. Are we consciously realizing that we unconsciously set an example for our children, right? Get that extra coffee, or they're making those connections. But then when the child does something, he's acting out, she's acting out, but we go to the gym, hit the punching bag, or we exert ourselves on the track, I'm going to run that 100 meters in 5 seconds. We find an outlet. But if our child doesn't have an outlet, are we there for him? They go to school, and little Johnny was a little bit different today. Yeah, little Johnny got a lot going on. Miss Michelle.
It's so funny that Dr. Catherine brought that up because my daughters play sports.
Nice.
They play sports. And just the other day, their football coach said to me, when you're punishing your kids, do not take away sports from them.
Yep.
Because that's an outlet for them. Like, they have everything pent up. They have everything built up. And, as parents, we're quick to say, give me the phones. Anything that you love is taken away from you until you can reflect. But mirroring that as an adult, if you're having a hard day at work, I want to have something that I enjoy,
an outlet,
that I can release and have an outlet too. So that's a very good point Dr. Catherine made, yes.
And one of the great things about the symposium is they're going to have booths all over, and they'll have some merchandise, some merch for people. There might be some little mini coping things for people to take home with them. And also they're going to be talking about different really quick fix coping skills during the main event. However, like one that just really quick one to take away is if your child is overwhelmed, there's this ice pack technique. If you keep ice or even fruit in the freezer and have them hold it in their hands if they're having a difficult conversation, you put it right here on the front of their forehead and it will calm them right down.
Yeah. Is there a pineal gland somewhere in that region?
It's it's the prefrontal cortex.
Just go back. Okay.
Yeah. That just will calm that sympathetic nervous system. Will just get, and it'll able to give air and oxygen to the brain so that they can really calm down quickly as not to be so overwhelmed and act out.
Thank you for sharing that, because medical health professionals share that with me, and that's why I absolutely I won't say how it makes me respond, but now we go into some places and they point this gun looking thing at your head to take your temperature. Don't do that to me. that triggers me in a certain way, because it's like you're going to shoot somebody.
Right.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
But if you take an ice pack, or even like my son would put his hand on my forehead.
Oh, precious.
Man, it's the most beautiful thing.
And that's that connection, remember? That connection that you're having,
And the reason why I want to emphasize that is that we do things without questioning. We do things and we don't understand the response. A little child, sometimes your own child, if you touch them from behind, little Johnny, and the back stood on, how did it respond? Ask yourself why. So with that in mind, the symposium is only a few hours, 10 to 4 at the Ritz. I think me and Miss who's going to go for lunch, we spend more time on that. Just kidding. It'll go in a flash. Tell us about it as we close the discussion. I mean, there's the booth, there's the panelists. What more do you want to share with us? It's a free symposium.
There's lunch.
Right? There's lunch. Okay.
I'm not going to share anything more.
Okay.
So,
how do you register that?
Right. Register, come out and enjoy the symposium, which I know everyone will. So I look forward to seeing the entire Cayman Islands at the Ritz on Saturday.
There will be people there that have mental health first aid training, so if you have to talk to somebody, there will be people there that you can talk to too outside.
I would say this publicly, and only to ask that you chastise me, correct me, guide me if I say it incorrectly. Please, something bothering you, seek a mental health professional to talk about. If it's your pastor, and don't just accept what is said. Dig into making yourself healthy in every respect. I don't think we appreciate how important it is to talk to someone, to see the strength in asking for help.
The counseling center is free because it's government. 949-8789. It's free. You call, make an appointment. They can give you an appointment, and you might have to wait a little bit because they get calls all the time. But they've got great therapists there.
Yeah, man. And as much as we love our children and try hard, we get it wrong many times. But there's help, right, Miss?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you need immediate help, please dial 911.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There's the mental health helpline too.
Yeah. I should know that number offhand. 1-800-534-HELP, I think it is.
Help, yes.
Yeah. So please, it's only strength in asking for help. Draw alongside our friends and family. I commend you for, being a willing, engaged participant, facilitating to all the sponsors who help, to put this on.
Thank you.
It's very crucial.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for taking time out of your regular days, and hopefully extending the public on behalf of the Expanded Foundation for the Youth Symposium this Saturday, right? 10 to 4 the Ritz.
That's right.
All right. Well, my platform is always available for good things.
Thank you.
Namaste. All right, we're going to pause and take a break. Wonderful discussion ensues again after this break. Miss Marielle Lacuna joins us. Hey, you want to know why I get to laugh and love life so much? I'm surrounded by great people. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
CUC reminds you always to be aware of power lines. Look before planting trees. Always ensure that the tree you are planting will not grow in overhead power lines. Check the CUC's customer service team at 949-5200. or via email at service@cuc.ky to ensure your plan of action is safe. Safety first at CUC.
What you got for lunch?
I'm having a red lentil penne pasta with Go Veggie dairy-free cheese.
And what's in the bag?
Fresh bellies, dried roasted red pepper snacks.
All I have are cup noodles. Where do you get all this fancy stuff?
It's all from Foster's Camana Bay in the Foster's Fine section aisle 8.
All this at Foster's?
Yep. With new specialty items each month, you can even visit fosters.ky/finds to discover something new.
Trade ya.
Foster's, better selection because we care.
It's almost here. The return of the Cayman Islands Agriculture Show, 54 years strong, is happening Ash Wednesday, February 22nd. Get your raffle tickets to win $20,000. Visit them on Facebook or CaymanAgriculture.com.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
The record. For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM for Cayman's Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record. Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
We give you honor and praise, adoration and glory.
Radio Cayman.
Praise time.
Praise him, praise him.
Come and let's praise the Lord. Come and let's praise the Lord. Praise him in the morning and in the evening. Oh, let's praise the Lord.
Praise time in the morning.
Praise him, praise him.
Weekdays 6 to 6:30 a.m.
Radio Cayman, waking you up.
Rock my soul in the blues of my faith in hand. Rock my soul in the blues of my faith in hand.
Praise time.
I know he cares. He'll always be there. Oh, yeah. Praise him, praise him, praise him.
Praise time.
Set your clock for 6 a.m. or you will miss it.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And in the spirit of giving, living, loving, laughing, learning, sharing, and being positioned with a sense of positivity. In the studio, Ms. Maribel Lacuna, thank you very much for joining us. Not enough of us, I think, love life enough to celebrate it publicly, and we may subscribe to scripture where say, all things give thanks. And there are times when it's difficult to, embrace something. I'm mindful that we may not be able to embrace it, but we need to be confident that we have the strength to endure it. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
As I welcome you, we'll talk more about the importance of looking after ourselves in every way. And I think the heart, oftentimes, we don't see how significant. It's not just about the way the blood pumps around the body. It's maybe what's in that blood. Is it positive energy? Is it negative feelings? Who knows? So good afternoon to you. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm wonderful and so happy to see you again.
It is a pleasure. Thank you. Likewise. Good to be with good people, and I think it's often that we don't celebrate and appreciate what we have, who we are, and what we can give, and what we should do. So maybe we'll encourage people to do just that today.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
We hear a lot, especially in the month of February, it's Heart Month. We celebrate Valentine's. We talk about love. We have our own misgivings and misconceptions, our perceptions and expectations. But what is love? There are many songs that have asked the body. And, well...
I don't know about those songs, but when I was young, those songs made me cry.
They probably still make us cry.
Yeah.
What was that? Is it foreigner? I can't fight this feeling anymore, Miss Susan. But we see love in that sense, and we see perhaps we won't get necessarily into infatuation versus love and the like, but we maybe fail to realize that the heart is just more than a muscle that perhaps gives us life.
Yeah.
But I'll learn as a student. You teach.
Okay. I'll just share whatever I know, which is very little. And it's all thanks to, my teachers and my gurus and, all the people in my life that have both loved me and triggered me to keep discovering, what it is that I really want and why I'm really here.
Yeah.
And you asked what is love, and I'll just share something that two of my gurus shared with me. And they both said, love is allowing. And when I first heard that didn't quite make sense to me. And it's taken me maybe around 9 or 10 years to start to unwrap that one sentence, love is allowing. And when I look at when I looked at my own relationships, love was a sense of expectation, a sense of needing to belong, a sense of feeling like someone belonged to me. And so there was a lot of what we would call an energetic charge around that didn't let me be who I wanted to be, and didn't let others that I loved be who they wanted to be. Because if I, for example, I'm a wife and I'm a mom, and if I think, a loving mom is, always there for her child, I'd never take time off for myself. And I did that in the past, right? And then it made me resentful. And that affected the quality of my relationship with my child. So I was there all the time with her, doing whatever I thought a good mom does to show her love. But I wasn't really being authentic to myself. And so what I've learned is that I can't allow this love in anyone if I don't allow it in myself. Simply because the first thing is, what do I want? What are my needs? And if I can't meet those needs, I'm going to constantly be in relationships of taking from others. But I want to be in relationships of sharing, not of creating these energy deficiencies where you've got to complete this part of me and this person completes that part of me. And so I'm always needing someone or something else. I want to choose to be with other people or with, other things in my life. And that means I've got to put my oxygen mask on first and really ask, like, what does loving myself look like to me? And there's no right or wrong, you know. For somebody, it's like, you know, sleeping in late. For somebody, it's going to Disneyland even though they're 50 years old. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
To thine own self be true.
Yeah.
And yet, we hear that, we know it, and many times we ignore it. We feel guilty for doing for ourselves. Yet, we're told increasingly in these last decades, self-help, self-love, self-improvement. But to do that thing that we willingly sacrifice for others, we feel guilty for doing for ourselves. Preparing them our favorite meal, taking time to go back us and enjoy the beach. To perhaps, you know, your favorite book that you haven't read in years, or a book that you always wanted to read. Or maybe it's watching a movie or something.
Yeah.
We don't do that for ourselves. Our last discussion, I think we talked about self-love and the societal disconnect. Is it then that the expectations that we put on ourselves, that we think society puts on us, the mother must always be this, the father must always be that?
Yeah.
Does that put increase and added pressure and stress on us?
Definitely. So, you know, when we're children, we just pick up from like books and parents and society ways that are celebrated, you know. So if we see that someone, you know, made a fresh meal for their kid and got celebrated for being a good mom, we start to kind of hold this image that that's what good moms do, you know, or what good, it could be anything, right? Yes. And we strive not to be good, but we strive for the validation. You know, we want, because we're human and we're social creatures. We thrive with connection. We seek connection even when we're disconnected with someone. We're so uncomfortable because we're wanting the connection, right? So behind everything is this very human biological need for connection.
Having that person, that touch, the feel, the talk, you know, the taste, that sense of being accepted, validated. But I didn't ask, reflecting on a PSA that used to air on Radio Came On way back when, that used to say, no, don't be afraid to be an original. You know, there's only one of you. You don't need to follow the crowd. You can stand out, you know, pursue your passions and dreams. And like, to the world in which we inhabit today, where you go along and get along, you're one carbon copy of everything else. That person who asks questions, despite perhaps the ask of the education system to just raise up critical thinkers, that person's ostracized. The person who says, you know what, I think I want to pursue this thing. As long as they're not hurting themselves or others, they may fail at the thing. They may not get the same success as they would in this other thing. They're not celebrated. They're all to be robots aligned. How do we get to that space where no more is the original? You know,
I think it's you know, it's always been like that, right? As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. So it's true, because people were always controlled by power, right? And all the structures of power and the corruption of power, whether it is through economics or you know, religion or education, will keep supporting itself, because that's how the people at the top thrive, right? Through that power. So it's really up to us to, you know, to make a choice and know that with every choice comes, you know, consequences. Or I don't even want to say consequences. I want to say with every choice comes like a certain unfolding, which isn't always predictable, right? Because as we know, like from quantum physics and things like that, the very fact that we're observing something changes its very nature. So just observing our thoughts instead of letting the thoughts control us, and it's a practice, you know, I mean, I'm still working on it, can help to shift that. Because do I want to fit in with everybody? And when I fit in, do I really feel happy? Or do I want to stand out because it gives me attention, because I'm an original? You know, it's not about like standing out and doing something different. It's about how you feel inside. Right? Because at the end of the day, there is no one to prove anything to. And that realization, or that lived experience, it takes a strong and tumultuous inner journey to feel that, like, I have nothing to prove to anybody. I don't need to prove my love by doing this. I don't need to prove my efficiency by doing this. I'm doing the best job I can because I want to.
Yeah.
Because it gives me pleasure and it gives me satisfaction. And no matter if my boss is like, mean or, whatever it is, I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this to please somebody else. And if they, if they enjoy it, if they appreciate it, great. And if not, I'm just going to enjoy the fact that I did it, right? Because I wanted to.
Doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, right? And
Doing what's true to you.
Exactly.
What is right or wrong in that sense. Like a fire, the nature of fire is to burn. And the fire doesn't discriminate between, well, I'm not going to burn this person because he's a saint, and I'm going to burn this person because he's a sinner. The fire just burns whatever gets in its path, right? So just like really inquiring around the concepts of right and wrong as a way that limit us. I mean, I'm not saying go and do bad things just because you feel like you want to do them, right? Go and do like things that are destructive. But really questioning what our heart space is. Like, what do I really want in life? And looking at my life and all the things I do and seeing if those are in alignment with what I really want.
Okay. All right, when we come back from the break, maybe let's talk about, because I think there are many times, many things that we just allow to exist without question. Let's question some things, huh? All right, the phone lines are open. When we come back, you know what? Tomorrow I still have a job, so stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
I'm coming in hot.
Coming in hot for the Red Dot sale only at Reflections. Clearance sale on men's and women's shoes. Nike, Reebok, Adidas, Puma, Dockers, and more. Limited styles available. Get yours before they're gone. Spot the Red Dot on any tagged item and receive up to 50% off. Ladies, save up to 50% off on clothing just in time to find your perfect Valentine's outfit or Valentine's gift with lingerie and personal massages at 10% off. Save on dresses, blouses, pants, and find even greater savings in our clearance baskets. Men, spot the Red Dot on any tagged item and receive up to 50% off on brands like US Polo, Dockers, and 20% off on all gym apparel. Levi jeans starting at $34. There is something for everyone. Reflections Clothing Store located on Shedden Road beside the Mango Tree across from Kirk Napa. Open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 9 to 9 p.m.
Add another 10% off at the Red Dot sale this week only at Reflections. Sale ends Saturday, February 18th.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Miss Mirabelle for being a part of us. I think oftentimes we have a chance to talk to people, to listen and to share, but to learn, from their experience and their expertise. Maybe it'll cause us to reflect and ask, what are we getting out of life? What are we contributing to life? We are people who do certain things, and as we were discussing earlier, I was saying about the heart. And I always wonder why sometimes we do the things we do. For instance, always sit down and we just eat a meal for the fact that it's lunchtime, we must eat. Maybe we need the energy to stay awake and to do the work, but we just eat and go. Why do we do that? Why not savor the flavor and enjoy the companion across the table with us?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. And I'm going to pull on some of the science around it, right? So busyness is quite a disease, because yes, there are always going to be more things on my to-do list than I can do in a day. But at the same time, when I'm, like you said, I'm not fully present for my meal, or even for if someone said something rude to me, I just go on like attack mode, or I just shut out and withdraw from that conversation. We need to understand the nervous system for this, because it's all science-based, right? So in our nervous system, we have what's called the sympathetic nervous system, which is our, fight, flight, and freeze response. So, for example, if a dog walks into this room, if you love a dog, no problem, right? But if you've been told stories about a dog, or you've gotten bit by a dog before, you're going to have one of three responses. One is to fight the dog, kind of just try to push it out of the room, get it out of your way, right? Or the other one would be to flee, which is the flight thing, I'm getting out of here. Or the other one is freeze, which is the lower part of the brain, the amphibic brain, which is kind of like a toad or a deer in the headlights, that kind of goes if I just stay really still, maybe the dog won't even realize I'm here, right? And we can see this, how it happens in our life when we are faced with uncomfortable situations. It could be an email that you really didn't want to get, or it could be someone saying something to you. The stimulus is not important. It's the response of the nervous system. So I'm just going to invite everybody, who's listening, to really think that when I'm faced with something uncomfortable, what part of my nervous system gets triggered? Is it my fight? Is it flight? Or is it freeze? And you'll find, in relationships, whether it's at work or at home, the people that are fight will always try to take control, right? They're going to be we've got the situation under control. This is what we're going to do. Blah, 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 blah. This is it, right? Let's do it. We're doing it now. Or they'll be this is what you should do. Da, 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 da. Just do it, right? The people that are in this sort of flight syndrome are okay, this is just too much for me. I can't deal with it. I'm out of here. Right? We all know. We've all been in these places. Right? And then the people that are freeze are oh my God, everybody's fighting at the dinner table. I'm just not going to say anything.
Or just be on the
I
table.
don't want to take sides. I don't want to get involved. I'm just going to be whatever. So when we know how our nervous system is responding, we can stop taking things personally. Instead of saying this person is always aggressive, we can see that this person's nervous system always responds in this way. And I'll tell you why. Okay? So stay with me. Now there's another part of the nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is what we call the rest and digest response. This part of our nervous system is really activated when we're peaceful and calm. Say you've gone to the beach, you've had a really good time, you're sort of feeling in that, kind of rosy daisy space where you're it's just been a good
Euphoria.
day. Yeah. Or you've had a good conversation, or a really good intimacy with a partner, or
The endorphins are flowing, huh?
Exactly. So that's when the parasympathetic system is activated. And in that time, when you're at the beach and you're watching the sunset and you're oh, that thing that happened to me 2 years ago and I was mad at? Actually, it wasn't a big deal. I shouldn't have said that. But it's because your nervous system was in this rest and digest response that you're able to process things that earlier felt really overwhelming. Right? So when we look at ourselves, or we look at people that are sort of triggering us, we want to not look at them as this person is like this. Look at them, like my guru says, look at it like a computer system, right? This is how it functions. It's triggered, so it goes into this response, which is fight, flight, or freeze. It's not about you. It's about the fact that that person's nervous system, they don't know how to bring it into what's called homeostasis or balance. And really, Sterling, this is something that we should be teaching at school, because it's a life skill that everyone needs to know. And there are ways in which we can bring our nervous system into balance. And, I'm happy to share, but I could go on, so you've got to interrupt me when it's,
Thank
too
you.
much.
I will, because I think this is where we fail to appreciate it. We can learn from other people, and learning is constant and continual. It can be in the formal, structured setting of a classroom. It could be on a walk with a friend, two attorneys taking a stroll for exercise. One is saying, here's an example, a precedent that I'd follow. We learn, but we need to be receptive to learning. And with that, as we look at our bodies and our nervous system, can we tell whether we're going to be the person who, the fight, flight, or freeze? How do we get to a space where we have that homeostasis, where we are grounded so that we can appreciate where we are? We feel the good feelings, the happiest place.
Yeah.
How do we know who we are, how we'll respond?
These are very profound questions, but just to understand our nervous system, the first thing we need to do is start looking at how we react to different people and situations. Am I mostly in fight, in flight, or in freeze? And then notice the physical sensations in the body that get activated when I'm in that state. What we do, because it's so overwhelming to feel quote unquote stress. What is stress? Stress is when something basically doesn't go my way, right? I'm the queen of the universe. Everybody's got to do what I say, and if it doesn't go my way, I'm going to be stressed, right? so when we, just look at how my body feels, and everybody feels differently. Some people's mouth will get really dry. Some people will feel like a churn in their belly. Some will feel like a restlessness in the body, like I've got to do something, I've got to move, right? What's happening is very physiological. It's the adrenal glands which are, going into this fight-flight syndrome and releasing adrenaline. And when adrenaline is released in the system, it goes to the limbs, to the hands and the feet, because that's what we need for survival. The blood rushing and the energy rushing to your digestive system and everything else, it kind of just stops. Which is why we feel like I've got to get out of here, or I've got to do something, because it's like that big rush of adrenaline. We don't actually have to do something. What we actually want to do is allow that, it's called a stress cycle. We want to let the stress cycle complete. But we try to intercept the stress cycle and do something like, I'm just going to have a coffee. I'm just going to go get a drink. I'm just going to go do something which actually numbs my system. When I numb my system, I cannot live, because to live is to feel. And when I keep numbing my system with different things, including being super busy, what happens when I'm super busy? I can't feel my feelings, right? I can't feel my body. So when we look at, and I know you had the lovely ladies in here before talking about mental health, and, we talk about trauma. Trauma is when I disembody. Something happens to me, and I see this in my one-on-one work with people a lot. Something happened in childhood that you couldn't control because you were a child. You couldn't do anything about it. So you decide to pick a coping mechanism so you can't feel the discomfort of that. Very often for women, it might be sexual abuse, right? It's usually someone in the family. They might tell the mother is, refuses to believe, and this kid has to keep going through this over and over again. How is the body, the physical body of this kid going to cope? You can't cope. So you disconnect from the body and go into the mind, right? You go into, this is what I'm going to do, or you go into like kind of creating scenarios where things would be different, but you don't feel the pain in the body, you don't feel the discomfort in the body. And this is natural. This is a method of survival. But you asked a question, how do we live? And to survive and to live are very, very, very different things. If we want to be able to live again, we have to go back to those moments of trauma. And even when they're happening now, and just feel differently. We need to feel the feelings, the sensations in our body, so that they can completely run their course and they can kind of get detoxified from the system.
Maybe we can talk about after the break, survive or live. Are we adding years to our life or life to our years? All right, after the break, please rejoin us.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Today's biggest news.
Tourism Minister the Honourable Kenneth Bryan says the data shows the money is with younger, more affluent and environmentally conscious travellers who are willing to spend a little more if it means they're supporting climate-friendly businesses and products. The minister took part in the Investment Ministerial Panel Wednesday during the Global Tourism Resilience Conference in Kingston, Jamaica. In international headlines, a special grand jury investigating efforts by then-President Donald Trump and his allies to overturn his 2020 election loss in Georgia says it believes that one or more witnesses committed perjury, and it is urging local prosecutors to bring charges. Portions of the special grand jury's final report say Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis should, quote, seek appropriate indictments for such crimes where the evidence is compelling. The sections that were made public are silent on key details, including who the panel believes committed perjury and what other specific charges should be pursued. Police say the man who shot 8 students at Michigan State University, killing 3 of them, was found with 2 handguns and a note containing a possible motive for the attack. The 9mm guns, dozens of rounds of ammunition, and the 2-page note were found with Anthony McRae when he killed himself Monday night after being confronted by police, according to campus deputy chief Chris Rosman. Investigators say they're still trying to pin down a motive 3 days after the violence at the 50,000-student campus in East Lansing, but the note was a key point. Police also say that 43-year-old McRae had no connection to Michigan State as a student nor as an employee. Those are your headlines. I'm April Cummings.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Today's biggest news.
Between the traffic, the meetings, kids' activities, there just isn't enough time. Best Health Pharmacy was a game changer. Not only are they centrally located on Eastern Avenue, but they deliver prescriptions for free anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. I could not believe it. When my prescription ran out, they ran it back to me. Best Health Pharmacy, located at Crown Square Plaza on Eastern Avenue, across from Edie's Decor, offering free prescription delivery anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. Call 949-1301 or WhatsApp your prescription to 924-5358. Best Health Pharmacy. Your health, your convenience is their priority.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks to Miss Mirabelle for joining us. I'm hoping that there's people listening that we start to appreciate, as I'm trying to, that we have one life to live. Whatever religious beliefs or societal expectations, how we've been socialized, whatever it is that we expect of ourselves or others expect of us. I always think we need to give as much to life as we can, but try to get as much out of life. I want to ask a question by presenting that. Is it that A, we believe that getting out of life is only the material, that legacy that we leave is reflected in the statue that has been planted, the building has been named, or what have you? Or is it that we can, in so doing, we can make a more meaningful, lasting, positive contribution to posterity by being the best that we, can possibly be? And what's hindering us from excelling, from getting the most out of life? Years to life and life to our years.
I think each person can answer that for themselves by introspecting. But I find that in my own journey, what has kept me back in the past, and I'm sure there are things still keeping me back, that's why I have a guru, is the worry about how people will perceive me. Right? That was a very big sort of roadblock. If I do this, for example, I shouldn't have material needs. I shouldn't be materialistic because I have enough, right? So I shouldn't want more. That's greedy. It's not good. But then it's also repressing the need for, whatever. And who says if I have more, I can give more, right? Who says that materiality and spirituality don't go together? Like money or wealth is energy. Everything is energy, and it's how we choose to engage with that energy. That, you know, you can use that money to bomb something, you can use that money to, you know, help people that have mental illness or whatever it is, feed people. The choice is yours. Money is neutral, right? It's an energy. So we build so many sort of, like, we worry about how we will be perceived if we do a certain action. And most of the time, you know, when I look into it, that worry is because I'm afraid other people will judge me the way that I would judge them if they did that. It's not even that they really care. You know, the truth is, Sterling, we're all too obsessed with ourselves, thinking about our own lives, right? This is the truth. Like, how much time do we, even when we think about others, we're thinking about, if I do this or don't do this, how are they going to think about me?
Well, let me ask you, and I think many would agree with what you're saying, that whether we consciously are aware of it or not, we worry about what people think. How is that person, whether it's a parent, a spouse, even a sibling, a child, co-worker, how is that person going to perceive me? What are they going to think of me for doing that thing? But then, is it then that if you find someone, and I make a distinction between someone we call a philanthropist and someone who's doing something, you know, of altruism. So this altruistic person who's giving of their time, their talent, their treasure, why is it then that it would seem that society will look at that person and say, I wonder what is it that they want? We can't see the goodness and the kindness that is innate, that is deliberate. We think that they want something. There's an ulterior motive in altruism. Why is that?
I think because in order to survive, we are naturally suspicious.
Okay.
You know, because intrinsically we have this survival thing that keeps us alive, right? We want to survive. At the end of the day, you know, you could be the most altruistic person ever, but if there's like only one meal left on earth, you're going to go for it, right? You're not going to like give that. I mean, probably 1 in a million people might do that. So I think the suspicion is natural. But also believing in the goodness of everyone is also natural. Both exist, you know. Suspicion helps us to stay safe, to make clear decisions, not get over emotional about things. Now, whether that is based on logic, that is data, which we know about a person, or a speculation, that's what we need to look at, right? And most of the time, it's speculation. Right? We think, oh, well, this person's doing this. Well, what's the big deal? They've got a lot of money. They can do it, right? Like, so what? We have to ask, what is it that I really want that they have that's making me feel like this?
So we compare ourselves to others. We make a decision, oh, that person will do this, because whether we are consciously aware of it, that's what we think and feel and what we would do. So in the possibility that a small percentage of us actually will do good, expect good, but in so doing, others take advantage of us. So that meal, that's the last meal. I see personal examples where the parents, my parents and those close to me, they would give that last meal to someone, and I've asked myself, well, why? Why would they deny themselves? We hear two things. One, you know, the airplane example, put on your mask first. I would think, from what I've seen, many of us as parents would take care of our children first. A few of us will do that. Some of us will. Every man for himself. But then we also hear, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And we believe that cup is only what's in us. But back to the wealth. If we don't have the wealth, the knowledge, the energy, the power to do that thing, how can we buy someone a cup of coffee if we can afford it?
Yeah, so nothing is good or, you know, it's a beautiful line in Shakespeare, right? In Hamlet, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So what we learn, you know, and from my 20 years of practicing meditation, you know, and working with people is, it's all energy. And then we put a positive or negative charge around it based on, you know, to put it very, very bluntly, whether we have sour grapes or not. You know, like we give that example of money, right? It's just an energy. How we choose to use it is what will amplify it or will deplete it, and amplify us or deplete us, right? Forget what it does for others. Even when we're altruistic, we actually feel good ourselves, right? It also gives me something, like to do this chat with you right now and share this beautiful knowledge, and to feel the receptivity that you have is also making me feel good. So it's a win-win. When there's a win-win, there's no question of comparison, because there's a sharing, right? But when I want to come out on top, that's when the comparison comes. And that's where the ego comes in, right? And we can relate the ego, to the sympathetic nervous system. That is your survival response. Like, I've got to be on top, I've got to survive, I've got to be ahead in the food chain, right? And so there are practices that we can do, to train ourselves, just like you train a muscle. You train your brain. We can train ourselves to be able to shift the way we live and we feel inside.
Many of us subscribe to different religious dogma, as it were. For me, the scriptures talk about, call that, so that we speak it into being, yet we see that words are powerful. Is it then that we need to retrain and consciously ensure that what we say isn't taking our energy and making it negative? That we need to be more deliberate in our words, so that our actions will flow from our thoughts.
Our actions should flow from our intentions.
Okay.
Right? And to know our intentions, we need to spend some time in reflection. And there's a way to prepare for reflection, because you can't just sit down and be like, well, I'm going to reflect now. It doesn't work like that if you're in this sympathetic response of your nervous system, which is like go, 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 right? From reflection can come clarity. And clarity is gold. Clarity is gold. Because without clarity, we don't even know what our intentions are. Like, why are we doing everything that we're doing? Like, what? For our family? For to leave a legacy? Like, really? So what? If that's it, then why? Then why? Then why? Keeping on asking ourselves. I know it sounds like tedious, but it's not. It's really vital to know why we're doing what we're doing. And that can really help to let the action come from a space of clarity and honesty with ourselves. And then it doesn't matter how anyone perceives it or not. I'm sure not everybody listening to the show is going to agree with me, and that's okay, because I don't need them to agree with me, because I don't want to be right. My guru, she always, when we get heated up about something, she says, ask yourself this question: do I want to be right, or do I want to be free? It is a life-changing question. And most of the time, when I want someone to agree with me or do things my way, it's because I want to be right, not because I want to be free. It's possible for multiple ways to do the same thing, right? You can make a cup of tea 50 million different ways. They're not right or wrong. It's what satiates you, right? And doesn't harm anybody else.
But we allow ourselves to be judged. We are critical
Don't
and
we
judgmental.
judge ourselves the most?
And we're critical and judgmental of ourselves even more. We're on the same page. And yet I wonder if that's because of our socialization, of our expectations of what we think society and those closest to us expect. Again, back to that PSA that really came on aired. It was instructive to me. Being original. It's okay to question things. I liked chocolate. I discovered that early. I discovered that I didn't like certain things that were perceived as chocolate, because as I tested it, this isn't it. Then as I got older, you could read the packaging and labels. You go, oh, how can this even be sold? Now, when I would question that, thankfully, there were people who would nurture and say, okay, well, good questions, right? Had I not had that level of instruction and guidance and an ability to develop an independent thought process, I may not be the way I am. But I find that as an adult, if you speak your truth, people castigate you because you're standing on what you think. Now, I never want to be dogmatic, so adamant and insistent that I can listen to reason and good counsel. But if we are able to appreciate the originality, to appreciate that, we are one amongst, 8 billion now, yet we don't want to be that person that owns our space, right? Chocolate with hot pepper is actually quite tasty. Too much pepper and you lose the flavor of the chocolate. But you got to be willing to merge and meld the two.
Mhm.
How many of us are willing to do that?
Yeah.
So with that, where are we now, right? We have the last break, Miss Susan. Is that the final break to take now? Right? When we come back from this break, let me ask for those who are listening, and this is where good discussion, good instruction can help us to get more from life as we give more to life. What would you share with us? Think about it during the break to put us on that path to, absolute bliss and all the good that comes from it. All right, stay tuned and join us after the break.
They say variety is the spice of life. And that's why at Subway, we're introducing the new Boneless Hot Sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new Boneless Hot Sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Ro Variety, centrally located in Tropical Plaza on Smith Road, carrying a wide range of household items, bathroom accessories, towels, clocks, handbags, clothes, shoes, jewelry, and more, and more, and more. You can buy from the big box retailers or support local. The better deals come from shopping local. Ro Variety Store, Tropical Plaza, Smith Road. Telephone 924-9553.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks to Ms. Mirabella for coming in and sharing with us. And maybe a future discussion we can talk about, the heart math experience and this idea that you can bring more to life if you're willing to listen to this. I appreciate you recognizing the receptiveness. I believe that learning is something that we can do continuously, but we have to be willing to engage. An active listener, you may be taxed and tired after the engagement, but you can come away with much more. Are we listening to understand, or are we listening to respond? What are we getting? What are we giving? We like to package things into little bite-sized nuggets, I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I'd rather read a voluminous text than to watch some 15-minute flick, because it's just a one-eye monster. But we don't have enough conversation. If you were to say to people now, put them on a path of fulfillment, of enlightenment, the journey that gives them more, so they can give more, get more, what would you say? How would we start that? What would we do?
So I can't speak about enlightenment because I'm not enlightened and I don't feel blissful all the time. Sometimes I feel angry and jealous and greedy and all the things that we're told we're not supposed to feel, but I allow myself to feel them because it's all part of being human.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just going to share from my very simple human experience and the experience and the evidence of the work that I do, right? One of which is co-meditation, and the other one is heart math. And so what I will say is the first thing to do is to address the nervous system, because we cannot see or think clearly when our nervous system is overcharged. If our nervous system is constantly being on edge, we will find that we are burnt out. We can't listen. We want to listen. We want to be there for others. We want to be there for ourselves. We want to give to ourselves, but I can't do it. If you're listening to the show and you feel like that, I feel you. I've been there before, and I know how awful it feels to not even have the energy to keep going on. And I'll say this to you. The first thing to do is to take care of your nervous system. That will determine all the choices you make around what you eat, how you think, how you are in your relationships. And there are tools to do this. And there's, you can start with something as simple as breathing. And this will need a whole other segment. But just slowing down your breath and breathing, like when you breathe in, you want your belly to get really full and round. And when you breathe out, you want your belly to recede back towards your spine. So you're not breathing like this big army kind of like chest breathe, like you're bracing yourself for something, but you're softening. You want to feel your belly soften as you breathe. And that's just a very simple thing that you can do. And, if I had my software with me and if we had a, video on, I could really demonstrate what that does for your physical heart and the heart rate variability. And your stress levels, and your heart is not just an organ that pumps blood, as you said, Sterling. It also produces hormones like oxytocin, which are not just the love hormone when you give birth or when you're with a partner. You can generate oxytocin without anybody, and this is through certain practices which have to do with breathing and perception. The heart also has an electromagnetic field, and when we like or dislike a person, it's really because of their electromagnetic field that emanates from their heart, and emanates from our heart too, right? And there's a way to be able to, there's a way to be able to regulate this and to shift this and change this. It needs commitment, just like you have to commit to exercise. Thankfully, it's not exhausting. It's actually rejuvenating, because if you're burnt out and trying to exercise, you're going to be more exhausted. So I'd say stop being so hard on yourself. Decide what it is you really want, and then be completely unapologetic about it. You don't have to advertise it to the world. You don't have to put it on Instagram saying, from today, I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. I'm standing up for myself. I'm stepping into my power. No. Just do it inside, and you will find that people around you will change. The people that are not adding to your life will drop away, not because they're bad, just because your journeys are different. Everybody's headed to the same place. Everybody's seeking the same feelings of feeling good, of feeling loved, of loving others, of feeling connected. Nobody is not seeking that. Just the ways in which we seek it are different. So I'd say really find a way that you can learn how to regulate your nervous system. Get in touch with me if you want to, or I'm sure you can find things online, and then commit to it. Don't do it for like 5 days and get off, because love is commitment.
And that love, it's. So I want to ask, maybe two final things. Breathing. Most of us do it without even realizing that we do it. But to consciously breathe, if we're doing a physical activity, the instructor might say, well, breathe in on this and breathe out on that movement, or through the mouth or the nose. But breathing is a technique. We need to learn how to breathe consciously.
Yeah, if we've had a good birth, we're born breathing really well. But then because of the stress response of the body, which is what I explained earlier, when you're stressed, your breathing becomes shallow. The oxygen supply gets reduced. It just happens like biologically. But we have to learn to intercept that and to switch that, so that, when we talk about being in control or like being responsible for our lives, we need to take the reins in our hands. Nobody's going to hand them to us.
No.
Like, God has given us all the tools we need, all the resources we need. No matter how, exhausted you are or cash strapped you are, know that the resources are available. But we have to reach out consistently. And that's a word I really want to emphasize, consistently, to be able to access them, right? And so there's a lot to breathing. There's the mechanics of it. There's the simplest thing I'll say is make sure you're breathing in and out through your nose. Many of us breathe out through our mouth or into our mouth, especially at night. So there's a lot of incidents that I see in Cayman in particular of COPD or like mouth breathing, even in children, snoring and things like that, sleep apnea. All that when that's happening, it means you're not resting enough. You're not getting the rejuvenation you need when you sleep. You're not having the right quality of sleep. Even if you're having 8 hours, you're not having the right quality of sleep. And that's going to affect how you feel in the day. It's going to affect how you feel about yourself, how you react or respond to others. One really easy way, if you don't have like diagnosed COPD, but you're just mouth breathing, is to just use a little tape on your mouth at night. I use it even now. I've been using it for 2 years. My daughter uses it too. We just tape our mouth and go to sleep, and then take the tape off in the morning. And that really impacts the quality of your sleep in a fantastic way. And make time to breathe. Every time you reach out for your phone to check your social media or to see if someone responded to your message, take 3 slow breaths and then reach out for your phone. So I'm not telling you to cut out anything from your life. I'm telling you to add some breath, because breath is life. And if we can enjoy breath, we can truly begin to experience the miracle of life, because, Sterling, it only comes to us through breath. Without this breath, we don't live. So it is the miracle of God that is constantly present in our life, this breath.
The breath of life that God breathed into us. Huh?
Yeah, so let's not take it for granted.
Yet we do. I probably do even more than I realize it. So I'm hoping that as people reflect on this week and be introspective, that we'll be conscious, give to ourselves, love ourselves, so that we can, find ways to unify our efforts, strengthen our resolve, but do it in love, through the breath of life.
Yeah.
That's very bad. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Hopefully you'll have time and we can invite you again to come on, and people will feel positively encouraged and nurtured, but understand that we have to be deliberately conscious to do good.
Yeah.
And to give.
Thank you so much for having me, and to everyone who's listening, thank you for listening. I really hope that you got just maybe one little nugget that you can bring into practice in your life. And just know that, you don't need to do more.
Now, if I may ask of you, if people wanted to maybe speak to you some more, how would they reach you? What's the best way?
My website is the best way. It's mirabeldacunia.com. Or the easy one to remember is heartmathky.com. So that's heart, HEART, MATH, math, like arithmetic, KY for Cayman.com.
All right.
So just shoot me an email and I'm happy to be here for you.
All right. Thank you very much, right? Enjoy the rest of this day, let the week embrace you with, great things as you give to others, you receive. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Tomorrow, looking forward to a discussion with Mr. Ezra Miller. We're going to be talking about a lot of things as a former parliamentarian, a former chair of the PAC. Well, we'll invite you first, though, to start off the day with Mr. Art for the record. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
26 years.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart